For as long as there have been kings and emperors, there have been tyrants, people of power who hold their subject back by using their creativity and their hard work to gain more control and more wealth. The stories of the old days looking back seem ridiculous. Take the story, for example, of a king who falls asleep drunk on a cold night outside of his maze. To his luck, a man in his court responsible for tending to his crown passed by, took off his own coat and placed it on the king so he didn't freeze to death. As his reward, the king banished him and beheaded the person in charge of the king's coat. This to us now seems medieval and like a scene from Game of Thrones, but if we look closely, we can see things haven't really changed much. Instead of the kings, we now have CEOs. Instead of the king's court, we now have the executive level. And instead of that court jester, we now have that weird guy Milton from accounting. Things are the same, just more disguised, and many of us in these corporations feel powerless. We can beat the tyrants, though, at their own game. In order to play, we must understand the rules, the laws that guide the path to power. We can choose now to turn a blind eye, as we always have, to these laws, and perhaps maybe we should, but whether we like it or not, someone's using these tactics, pulling the strings behind the scenes, and if it's not us, there's a really good chance we will stay the victim, and these tyrants will continue to win. The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene offers a glimpse of the laws and plays that most powerful men and women of history have used to get to where they are. By the end of this video, we'll have to make a choice. We can use these laws for good or for evil, and maybe we just use them to make sure we don't get taken advantage of. Either way, the road to reclaiming our power starts with recreating ourselves. The brand we have at work isn't necessarily ours. It's a brand or an image that's been given to us by our friends and parents and colleagues. This image was created for us, not necessarily by us. If we stand any chance of taking our throne back, we have to start by remaking ourselves. It won't be easy, especially if we've been in a job for a while, but working ourselves like a new mold of clay and not accepting the role society has forced upon us, we can forge a whole new identity. One that demands respect and a seat at the table. Sure, there will be people we leave behind and old habits we have to break, but the sacrifice to power will be worth it. Remember, this character we create is our making, and we can change it anytime that we see fit. No longer can we make the mistake of thinking being 100% us all the time will grant us the respect we deserve. History is flooded with people who thought just being authentic would be enough, but that "I'm just being real" statement can cost us dearly if we're not too careful.
You the man. Give me some skin, huh?
Though he could have ignored the simple comment his mentor made, Vernon decided to keep it real.
Get your motherfucking hand out of my face.
So much depends on our reputation, and we have to guard it with our lives. Our reputation is the cornerstone of power. Reputation alone can help us win battles before they even begin. But be warned, once this slips, we can't easily get it back. Self-awareness is going to be key here. Do you know what your colleagues and bosses think of you? Easy to work with, or do people try to go around you to avoid the annoying back and forth? Are you reliable, or someone seen as flaky? According to the book, we have to make our reputation simple and based on a single, highly respected quality, like efficiency, productivity, or some other unique skill. Some people believe that simply not caring how you are perceived is a virtue worth having. But according to Robert Greene, that's just plain dumb. By not caring how you're perceived, you let others decide this for you. They become the master of your fate and also your reputation. Whatever the reputation we choose, we must remember to never appear common. A tool to help us do this is always saying less than necessary. The more we say, the dumber we sound. You know those people on the Zoom call that no matter what the subject is, they have to raise their hand and have something to say. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Donnie. No one cares about what your opinion is.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Robert Greene says, when you're trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear and less in control. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. The more you say, the more likely you are to say something foolish. People have known this for a really long time. There's this really amazing quote by Leonardo da Vinci. He says, "Oysters open completely when the moon is full, and when the crab sees this, it'll throw a piece of stone or seaweed into it so the oyster cannot close again. So it serves the crab for meat. Such is the fate of him who opens his mouth too much and thereby puts himself at the mercy of the listener." While we're building up our reputation, we have to be aware of the hordes of infected zombies at work as well. Yeah, you heard me right. I said zombies. Okay, maybe there aren't really zombies at work, but there is an infection we have to avoid, and it's the unhappy and the unlucky. You know the people who every time you speak to them, they're complaining about how the CEO doesn't know what they're doing, or they can't, for some reason out of their control, get the promotion that they seek. The book says you can die from someone else's misery. Emotional states are as infectious as diseases. You may feel you're helping the drowning man, but you're only participating in your own disaster. The unfortunate sometimes draw misfortunes on themselves. They will also draw it onto you. Associate with the happy and the fortunate instead. I won't lie. This one, I've ignored one too many times. It's okay to want to help people, but the truth is some people just like being miserable. And if we don't want to have the same fate as them, we should avoid them at all costs. As we climb the ranks in the organization, more and more, we will have to develop relationships with our colleagues, peers, and most of all, our bosses. Many have built a solid reputation only to be fired or stuck in a dead-end position, never to be seen or heard from again because they failed to observe this important law: never outshine the master.
Go! What's your sole purpose in this army?
To do whatever you tell me, drill sergeant.
A part of us somewhere deep hates it when our master swoops in last minute to steal our idea or take credit for something we did, but this is the role we must play to curry favor. Take this cautionary tale of Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison. Although Edison wasn't much of an inventor himself, he died well known and wealthy, whereas Tesla died angry at the world and he was ultimately broken. The difference was that on Tesla's come up, he refused to allow Edison, or really anyone for that matter, take credit for his inventions. He didn't want anybody to profit off his ideas. The result was that he was politically banished from the spotlight and died penniless. We may feel at times our masters don't know what they're doing, but never assume you know who you're dealing with. And always make your masters look good with a smile on your face and watch as they drag you to the top with them. Yes, our hard work will be used as political ammunition, but while this is happening, make sure you take some notes. Getting others to do the work for you and always taking credit is the key to our rise to the top. Robert says this in the book: learn to take advantage of other people's work to further your own cause. Time is precious and life is short. If you try to do it all on your own, you will run yourself ragged, waste energy, and burn yourself out. It is far better to conserve your forces, pounce on work others have done, and find a way to make it your own. Wait, that's kind of what I'm doing in this video. Just kind of taking credit for someone else's brilliant idea from a book I didn't write, making it my own. Anyway, the elites call this delegation, and on paper, it could seem this will make us appear lazy, but it's actually the opposite tends to happen. The less time we spend on the legwork, the more time we have to work on the tasks we actually enjoy and continue building important relationships in the court. The credit for the invention or creation is important, if not more important than the invention itself. But be warned, others will be trying to do the same to us. Be vigilant and keep your creations to yourselves to make sure that no vultures are circling overhead. Once we make it to the top, the true hard work begins. Getting to the throne isn't nearly as hard as keeping it. Once there, we're going to be tempted to bring our friends along with us, but the 48 Laws warns against this. In fact, Robert says never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use your enemies. Be wary of friends. They will betray you much more quickly, for they are easily aroused to envy. But if you hire a former enemy, he'll be much more loyal because he has a lot more to prove. In fact, you have to fear more from your friends than enemies. If you have no enemies, find a way to make them. Of course, we love the water cooler talks with our friend Brad, but Brad will betray us and be the first to offer people our secrets and backstab us to get what they want because of their envy. Keep friends for friendships, but work with the skilled and the competent. Once we achieve some level of success, the only people we have to really fear are the people in our inner circle. The success we obtain only reminds them of their stagnation and bring out the worst emotion of all, envy. This is why we must never appear too perfect. Appearing better than others is always dangerous, but most of all, it is dangerous to appear to have no faults or no weaknesses. Envy creates silent enemies. Only gods and the dead can seem perfect with impunity. Really think about it though, the bosses you hate versus the bosses you admire. What's the difference? The bosses you really liked were most likely, they weren't really perfect. We like it when the famous and the powerful put on this act for us, and they act as though luck was the only reason they have what they have. The truth is, luck doesn't really make us feel bad for what we don't have. In exchange, we work harder for them. People have a really hard time dealing with envy. People don't like admitting they feel inferior, mostly because of their inflated sense of ego. So instead of admitting how they feel, they just disguise it by criticizing us behind our backs or trying to dig up some dirt. The best people in power avoid envy by trading it all with pity. They act as though the role is a sacrifice that nobody really wants, and they fell on the cross for us. Instead of envy, we just kind of feel bad for them. The 48 Laws of Power has been banned in schools and prisons, arguably because of just how well the laws really work. The truth is, these laws are being used by someone, maybe subconsciously by the people in power that probably shouldn't even be there. Early in the video, I mentioned we will have a choice on how we actually use this knowledge. We can use it simply to make things better, or we use it for evil and become the leaders we have grown to hate. Make no mistake though, the laws are at play by someone. Why not us?